I'm Sarah Hages, and recently I got the opportunity to sit down with Rod Gustafson, a film critic for Parent Previews, to ask about his career and how he got started. How did you get started in the film critic industry?
Well, I've worked in media for a long, long time, since I was a teenager. And after working in the media industry for about, I guess it was around a little more than 10 years, I was managing a television station in Medicine Hat as a production program manager there. And I was really getting disillusioned with media in general. I really felt like that I wanted to do something more than just, I guess the day that was really the turning point, I was writing a check to buy another soap opera. Soap operas were big back then, for another year. And it was a substantial amount of our programming budget. And I remember thinking, like, really, is this really what I want to be doing? I always believed that, like, I love media, I love television, I love movies, everything else, but I always believed that it could be used for so much more and better things. And so I did some thinking and some research, and to make a long story very short, I decided that what I wanted to try and do was create something that would allow parents to be able to choose better media in their homes. And so that took me into becoming a film critic. So quite honestly, even today, like, the film critic thing is kind of number two to being able to help parents and families to use media and to be able to think critically about the media that they're using. I think it's really important for them to teach their kids to think as they're watching TV, movies, whatever.
How exactly do you make money as a film critic?
For me, when I first began writing movie reviews, I remember the first movie review I wrote was for this crazy movie about a big St. Bernard. It was some family movie called Beethoven. And it's this big, monstrous St. Bernard. You look like you might be familiar with it. And so I wrote this review, and I wrote about 3 or 4 others, and I thought, okay, I got to sell these somewhere. So back in those days, in the early 1990s, you sent out letters, query letters to newspapers. And so I sent out hundreds of these letters, and eventually I got one in Williams Lake, British Columbia. They were the first place that ever paid me for writing a movie review. What's really strange is when the recession happened back in 2008, my phone rang off the hook with newspapers that had taken my column for over a decade, and they were all canceling because the newspaper industry really got hit hard. And right about that same time, a lot of the advertisers moved their money from print into online. And so we started seeing our revenues in the middle of this recession increasing online. And so now 85-90% of our revenue comes from selling advertising online. We operate a website. I also do a syndicated radio, a daily radio show as well, which has returned, I think I've made $52 off of it so far. It's like planting a big oak tree. That one takes a long time, but I'm continuing to do that. It's on a couple of dozen stations. But right now, the mainstay of our income comes from online revenue. In addition to, we've got some print media, family-oriented magazines and whatnot that still take our column.
You said you're just starting a family as you got into the industry. Has that affected how you view movies now?
Well, you look at media very differently when you start having kids. What seemed quite, benign and, wasn't that big of a deal before, suddenly you got your little 6-year-old sitting beside you in the theater, and now you go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't remember that was in this movie. And so it sensitizes you to be able to hear and see things in films and television and all media, at least for me it did, that I wasn't immediately recognizing before. And so, yeah, that I think really sums it up. What's kind of interesting is all of my kids now are adults, and I am having to remember, what it was like having that 6-year-old again, because I'm starting, it's very easy to become desensitized.
What's your favorite genre?
I like movies that have that are heavy on dialogue and have personal relationships where the conflict is between individuals. I'm not a big fan of action films. I find that I watch so many action films in a year. I've seen New York be blown up by countless superheroes. Los Angeles. New York gets the superheroes blowing it up. LA gets the aliens. There's kind of certain cities attract certain bad guys. So, and after you've seen that over and over, I kind of bore with the action films, but I really like movies that present interpersonal conflict. I think those are the ones that, for me, are the ones I like the best.
I'd like to thank Rod Gustafson for taking time to meet with me. We look forward to hearing what he has to say about upcoming movies. This has been Sarah Hages with SAIT.